So here's the latest project. It's a 2002 Honda XR50R that went for a little swim, and now the engine is locked up. The gentleman I got it from said his grandson had ridden it into the creek, and they got it out and actually got it started again. But after it was parked and they came back to try to start it again, it was locked up. So we'll see. Hopefully it's just in the top end. Still goes through the gears, but he said there was water in the oil. He drained the oil out and filled it full of kerosene. Trying to free it up, didn't work. So we'll find out once we get in there. The bike will also be needing fork bushings. There's quite a bit of play in the fork. The rest of the bike's in decent shape though. Plastics are still good. The seat's really nice. There's no tears or nothing in it. It will need a little brake lever and the kill switch. Start taking some of the bolts apart, get the plastics off to get a better look at it. Looks like she's gotten wet. He said he had replaced the chain and the sprockets at one point in time, not all that long before it had happened. The tires are in still usable shape. They're pretty decent. No real dry rotting or nothing on them. Well, so there it is. That's all I really have for now. I will try to make another video as I get into this engine and see what the damage is. I did take the spark plug out and take a peek down there with the flashlight, and it looks like there might be some surface rust in there. I'm hoping that's what it was. So, well, there she is. Let me know what you think. Well, this is where I'm at now. I got the engine pulled out. I sprayed some, well, I put some two-stroke oil down in the spark plug hole of the cylinder head, and I let that sit overnight. And now I took the flywheel cover off, and I just slowly worked it back and forth until it was spinning all the way around. And so that freed it up, so I'm pretty happy about that. It does look like it sucked in some water though. I mean, the intake was pretty gnarly looking. Everything's moving pretty freely and everything's quiet, but I still want to get inside of there. I'm sure there's some gunk in there that needs cleaned up pretty much. Another issue I had was the carb slide on the carburetor is stuck. I cannot get it off for nothing, so I soaked that in some parts blaster, and I'll see how that cleans it up. Before I took the engine out of the bike after I'd had it freed up, I turned the ignition on, put a plug in it, and kicked it over, and it had spark, so I was pretty happy about that. I don't think any of the electronics got damaged. So that's where I'm at now, and I'll try to keep you updated as I get some more work done on this. Now that I have everything removed, I can get a look at what's going on inside this little motor. The lower connecting rod bearing has zero play up and down. It's got very little to no side to side, so that's great. I will not have to be splitting the cases. The cylinder wall has it's surfaced rust, and it kind of looks like hard water deposits on the top. Nothing major though inside the rest of it. There's no scarring or anything, so I think I'll be able to clean this out with a hone. Being that I'm this far though, I'll probably be replacing the piston and rings, obviously. The head, the valves look nice as far as there's no chips or marks or anything on it, but there's a lot of carbon deposit, so I'll have to clean this up and lap the valves. The camshaft, which you might not be able to see, it looks nice. There's no weird abnormal wearing or anything of the sort. It kind of put up a fight getting off. It did not want to come apart. obviously I'll be ordering new gaskets too. So we'll see where I go next. Alright, now with the cylinder head disassembled, I can get a look in there behind the valves. On the intake side there's a ton of what looks like hard water and some rust. The exhaust side isn't as bad, but there's still quite a bit built up. Removing the valves and springs, I was able to just push this up against the tire here, take this tool, and I was able to just push them down to remove the clips. They're pretty simple on these little engines. They're not very tough springs. Camshaft bearings, the larger one was just fine. The smaller one though is seized up. I'm going to try to soak that in some parts blaster, see if I can free it up. It'll probably be needing replaced though. I did buy some lapping compound. It does not look like there's anything wrong with the actual metal of this, so I'm hoping I can just clean it up, lap the valves, and get a good seal that way. The cylinder head itself, I do not know if I'll be able to salvage that. There was quite a bit of surface rust in there. I did clean it up, just trying to use some 1000 grit sandpaper, just very lightly going over it. Got a lot of it off, but I might just go with a cheaper Chinese jug and piston kit. They're only $49, so it might be worth throwing one of those on for now. It'll keep me from having to bore this and keep the cost low. Well, that's where I'm at now, so we'll see where I go next. And now after the honing, it came out fairly nicely. There's still evidence of what was in there, but I think it's going to work out for now. I'm going to order new piston rings. So that's it for that. This bearing that was on the cam that was frozen up, I just soaked it in some parts cleaner and worked it back and forth a couple times, and it's spinning just as freely as it can be. The rest of the bike, I kind of have a lot of stuff tore apart at the moment. Just trying to do some degreasing of some of these parts. The air filter was completely toast. I don't know where that went, but it had a lot of moldy looking kind of stuff on it. It was pretty disintegrated. Chain's cleaning up pretty nice, everything's soaking in just some degreaser, and brushed it all down real well and coated it again. The rest of the bike, I've cleaned up the plastics the best I can. I'll take the heat shield off the exhaust and probably paint the pipe with some high temp paint, put the heat shield back on. Clean the frame up some today. Might take the chain guard off and maybe use a heat gun on it, see if I can return it to black. I don't know, I'll see how it works out. I still got to take apart the forks, put the new fork bushings in, and I ordered dust covers also because these ones were pretty deteriorated. I tried to fix my bent brake handle. That did not go as planned. So it's either make do with this or order another one. And I still got to come up with a fix for the kill switch. It does have the key under the gas tank, but I'd like this one to work as well. If I can't get that to work, I have this kill switch off the old Kawasaki KX80 I had. Might just mount that on the left hand side since there's nothing there anyways. the stator cover was, it's kind of beat up. It's nothing horrible. I'd like to clean up the finish on that, and if I have to, I'll just respray it silver. That should look fine. Well, that's where I'm at now. Alright, so now we'll be doing the forks on the front of this little bike here. I've already done this side here. There was a lot of play in both of them. It's basically just these little bushings. So to disassemble these forks, you take off the 14mm bolt that's at the top of the fork. You need to pull up your dust covers at the top, and inside of here there's a snap ring that you need to remove. Basically that's all that holds them together. You should be able to pull it up from there. And there's the inside of the fork. You can tell it's pretty wore out, it's pretty dirty. These little bushings wear down and they create a lot of play. To take this apart, inside of here there's a little pin that you need to pound out. You can use a center punch or something. I found just this little bar that fits down inside of there pretty well. And you just take your hammer or a mallet and pound that out. You can separate all this, slide your bushing up, and you can replace it. They're pretty simple to work on. So I'll show you another little video of after I have this tore apart and reinstalling it. Alright, so now that you have your fork reassembled, I'm not going to lie, that little pin can be a pain in the ass. Make sure that you have this little notch here facing an opposite direction of your fork guard mounts. This little pin should be facing inward toward the other fork, and the mounts facing outward. And slide everything back together. You can kind of feel it catching that little notch at the bottom. You can put in your 14mm that you took out. Okay, and before I did reassemble this, I tried to clean out the fork tube the best I could, make sure the snap ring groove inside of there is clean. That way it all goes together a little easier for you. When you're installing this, make sure that you get it seated, not just put in. And slide your dust caps down. And there you go. You have rebuilt forks on your little XR50R here. No more play. Should ride a lot better than it was. Alright, now that I have the parts to rebuild the top of this motor, I can get at it. I got some new Honda rings, gasket set, and valve stem seals. When you go to take your old rings off of the piston, try to lie them out, you know, as to how you take them off the piston from top to bottom. It'll help you reassemble everything so you don't get anything mixed up. Same thing with the head when you disassemble. Try to bag everything as for intake and exhaust. mainly now it's just a lot of trying to keep everything as clean as you can. Make sure you clean out the little oiler holes on the top of the piston. I just used some carb cleaner and a lot of compressed air. Try to clean everything up the best I could. Already got the new rings put on. And at the ends of the rings, try to, don't ever let them all be in a line. You want to try to break it up and stagger the pattern the best you can. But really from here, everything's just try to keep everything as clean as you can. You don't want any debris left behind. I've already lapped the valves for the head, so that's kind of ready to be put back together. Make sure you get all of your, old gasket material and everything like that off. You want a nice smooth surface to get a good seal. And, just take your time, make sure everything's, like your rings are moving freely. You don't want them to be locked in place. You want them to be able to spin. I have started the reassembly of the head here. I have the exhaust side done already. Just wanted to show you like the valve stem seals, and they're very easy to get put in there. If you can get your fingers down there. It's kind of a two-handed job. I just get it on there first. I just kind of clip right down. And from there you make sure to put your, well, I'm not exactly sure what the technical name for this little ring is. We'll just call it the valve spring base. Put that down in there. Now you can slide your valve up from the bottom. Your spring. Then once you got your spring on, take the top, put her on there, and then I have just been working down here up against the tire of the three-wheeler again on a towel. That way you're not, scratching the bottom of this thing. And with this here, just pushing it down with my right hand. As you push that down, you can get your little valve keepers in. You can put up a fight doing it this way. These smaller motors, though, you can kind of push them around and get your way with them. Well, I now have the engine fully assembled. It all went together pretty smoothly. Always remember when you're storing an engine with any open ports, make sure you cover those up. You don't want nothing getting in there. I guess now I'll be working on the carb, and as you can see, this is a very dirty carb. You can definitely tell it sucked in some water. The carb slide was actually frozen inside the carb body. I'm going to see if I can get this with just some carb cleaner. compressed air. If not, I guess I'll try boiling them, see if that works. Well, the bike is now complete. I know I kind of skipped a lot since the last time I did a video. We have taken this bike out for probably a total of about 5 hours, or maybe a little more. I have yet to replace the brake lever, and I did have a little piece of plastic epoxied into the top of this, but it broke off, so I think I'm going to have to go another route with this. All in all, I'm pretty happy with it and haven't had any issues. The heat shield for the exhaust, I lost a bolt when we were out riding, so I just removed it. The whole thing was rattling. Still have it though, I just got to get it put back on. Do a little startup here. So it's running pretty well. No funky motor sounds or anything, I'm pretty happy with that. No smoke at all. So there she is, and well, thanks for watching my video, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope you may have learned something. I don't know, it wasn't much of a how-to video, it's just more or less this build in particular. Check out my other videos, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.